Step behind the glittering facade of Golden Age Hollywood, where scandal and secrecy simmered beneath the surface. What dark truths did the mighty studio system hide behind its polished veneer? Were secret double lives and masked identities fueling bitter rivalries and devastating betrayals among stars? How did explosive courtroom battles unmask hidden power plays and expose shocking misconduct? And what secrets were whispered behind closed doors at exclusive social clubs where forbidden alliances formed? Join us as we peel back the layers of glamour to reveal a realm of intrigue and mystery. Are you ready to uncover Hollywood's guarded secrets? Hollywood's golden era, spanning the 1920s to the 1960s, is often remembered as a time of dazzling stars, timeless films, and unparalleled glamour. But beneath the shimmering surface of this dream factory lay a world of exploitation, manipulation, and outright cruelty, especially for the women who lit up the silver screen. Actresses were the crown jewels of Hollywood, but they were also its most vulnerable victims. Their beauty and talent made them stars, but it also made them targets. This is the untold story of the actresses who endured the dark side of Hollywood's golden age, where power was wielded like a weapon, and survival often came at a devastating cost. The studio system, a gilded cage. The studio system was the backbone of Hollywood's golden era, and it was designed to control every aspect of an actress's life. Studios like MGM, Warner Brothers, and Paramount didn't just sign actresses to contracts, they owned them. These contracts were often 7 years long, with options that allowed studios to extend them indefinitely. Actresses had no say in the roles they played, the publicity they were forced to participate in, or even their personal lives. They were commodities, packaged and sold to the public as flawless icons of beauty and grace. Judy Garland, the luminous star of The Wizard of Oz, is perhaps the most tragic example of how the studio system exploited its actresses. Signed to MGM at just 13 years old, Garland was immediately thrust into a grueling schedule of rehearsals, performances, and publicity appearances. Studio head Louis B. Mayer micromanaged her life, dictating everything from her diet to her social life. To keep her energy up for long days on set, she was fed amphetamines. To help her sleep at night, she was given barbiturates. This cycle of drugs, prescribed by studio doctors, led to a lifelong addiction that haunted Garland until her untimely death at 47. She was Hollywood's darling, but behind the scenes, she was a prisoner. The casting couch, a price for stardom. The casting couch was an open secret in Hollywood, a euphemism for the sexual exploitation that countless actresses endured in their quest for stardom. Powerful men, studio executives, directors, and producers used their positions to coerce young women into compromising situations. The promise of a role, a contract, or even a screen test was often dangled like a carrot, but the price was steep. Harry Cohn, the ruthless head of Columbia Pictures, was notorious for his predatory behavior. Cohn ruled his studio with an iron fist, and he made no secret of his demands. Joan Crawford, who knew the darker side of Hollywood all too well, once said, "If you want to see fear, look in the eyes of a young actress meeting Harry Cohn for the first time." Cohn's office was infamous for its private elevator, which he used to discreetly bring actresses to his suite. Those who refused his advances often found themselves blacklisted, their careers over before they even began. But Cohn was far from alone. Even legends like Marilyn Monroe were not immune to the casting couch. Monroe, who became one of the most iconic actresses of all time, spoke openly about the pressure she faced early in her career. "I was told to sleep with producers, directors, and anyone else who could help my career," she once said. "I didn't want to, but I didn't think I had a choice." Monroe's vulnerability and beauty made her a star, but they also made her a target. The pressure to be perfect. In Hollywood's golden era, actresses weren't just expected to be talented, they were expected to be perfect. Studios dictated every aspect of their appearance, from their weight to their hairstyle to their smile. Those who didn't conform to the studio's ideal were often subjected to brutal criticism and public humiliation. Joan Crawford, one of the biggest stars of the 1930s and 1940s, was known for her relentless work ethic and perfectionism. But behind the scenes, she was constantly battling the studio's demands. MGM executives pressured her to maintain a specific weight, and she was subjected to regular weigh-ins. If she didn't meet their standards, she was publicly shamed and even fined. Crawford's drive to succeed was fueled by fear of losing her career, her fame, and her identity. Similarly, Ava Gardner, one of the most beautiful actresses of her time, was constantly scrutinized for her appearance. MGM executives once told her to fix her imperfect teeth, even though her smile was part of what made her unique. Gardner later recalled, "They wanted me to be perfect, but they didn't care what it cost me." The double standard, love, marriage, and scandal. Actresses in Hollywood's golden era were held to a double standard when it came to their personal lives. While male stars were often celebrated for their romantic escapades, actresses were expected to be paragons of virtue. Any hint of scandal could destroy a career. Ingrid Bergman, the Academy Award-winning star of Casablanca, learned this lesson the hard way. In 1949, Bergman fell in love with Italian director Roberto Rossellini and became pregnant with his child while still married to her first husband. The scandal made headlines around the world, and Bergman was vilified in the press. She was denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate and effectively exiled from Hollywood for years. It wasn't until her triumphant return in Anastasia, 1956, that she was able to rebuild her career. Similarly, Hedy Lamarr, often called the most beautiful woman in the world, faced constant scrutiny for her personal life. Lamarr was a brilliant inventor as well as an actress, but her 6 marriages and numerous affairs overshadowed her achievements. The press painted her as a femme fatale, and her career suffered as a result. The price of fame. For many actresses, the pressure of Hollywood's golden era took a devastating toll. Substance abuse, mental health struggles, and broken relationships were common among the stars who seemed to have it all. Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland, and countless others struggled with addiction and depression, their lives a stark contrast to the glamorous roles they played on screen. Monroe, in particular, became a symbol of the dark side of fame. Despite her success, she was plagued by insecurity and loneliness. "Fame will go by and, so long, I've had you, fame," she once said. "If it goes by, I've always known it was fickle." Monroe's tragic death at 36 remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries, a reminder of the cost of living in the spotlight. Double lives and hidden identities, the explosive secrets of Hollywood icons. Hollywood's golden era was a time of dazzling stars and larger-than-life personas. But behind the carefully crafted images of glamour and perfection, many of the industry's biggest icons led secret lives that contradicted their public personas. These double lives were often born out of necessity, as the strict moral codes of the time forced stars to hide their true selves. From hidden romances to secret addictions, the private lives of Hollywood's elite were a world away from the roles they played on screen. When these secrets were revealed, the fallout was often explosive, shattering careers and reshaping public perceptions. This is the untold story of the double lives and hidden identities that defined Hollywood's golden era. The closeted stars, love in the shadows. In an era when homosexuality was not only taboo but illegal, many of Hollywood's biggest stars were forced to live double lives. The studio system demanded that actors maintain a wholesome, heterosexual image, and any deviation from this norm could mean the end of a career. As a result, countless gay and bisexual stars hid their true identities, often entering into sham marriages to protect their public personas. Rock Hudson, one of the most beloved leading men of the 1950s and 1960s, was the epitome of Hollywood masculinity. With his chiseled jawline and commanding presence, Hudson was the dream of millions of women. But behind closed doors, he was a gay man living in constant fear of exposure. Hudson's studio, Universal Pictures, went to great lengths to protect his image, even arranging a marriage to his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates. The marriage was a facade, designed to quell rumors about Hudson's sexuality. It wasn't until the 1980s, when Hudson was diagnosed with AIDS, that the truth about his double life came to light. His illness forced Hollywood to confront the AIDS crisis, but it also revealed the devastating toll of living in the closet. Similarly, Montgomery Clift, one of the most talented actors of his generation, struggled with his sexuality in an industry that refused to accept him. Clift's intense performances in films like A Place in the Sun and From Here to Eternity made him a star, but his private life was a source of constant turmoil. Clift's relationships with men were an open secret in Hollywood, but the press and the studios conspired to keep them out of the public eye. The pressure to conform took a toll on Clift, leading to alcoholism and a downward spiral that ultimately cut his career short. The secret addictions, glamour, and despair. For many Hollywood icons, the pressure to maintain a perfect public image led to secret struggles with addiction. Alcohol, drugs, and prescription medications became crutches for stars who were expected to be flawless at all times. These hidden battles often played out behind closed doors, far from the prying eyes of the public. Judy Garland, the beloved star of The Wizard of Oz, was one of the most tragic victims of Hollywood's demand for perfection. From a young age, Garland was fed amphetamines to keep her energy up and barbiturates to help her sleep. This cycle of drugs, prescribed by studio doctors, led to a lifelong addiction that haunted Garland until her death at 47. Despite her struggles, Garland continued to perform, dazzling audiences with her voice and charisma. But behind the scenes, she was battling demons that ultimately proved too much to bear. Marilyn Monroe, another icon of the era, also struggled with addiction and mental health issues. Monroe's public persona was that of a bubbly, carefree sex symbol, but her private life was marked by loneliness and despair. She relied on prescription medications to cope with anxiety and insomnia, and her relationships were often tumultuous. Monroe's death in 1962, officially ruled a suicide, remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. Her tragic end was a stark reminder of the cost of living a double life. The hidden romances, love against the rules. In Hollywood's golden era, even the most innocent romances could become scandals if they didn't fit the studio's narrative. Stars were often forced to hide their relationships, whether to protect their image or to avoid the wrath of studio bosses. Ingrid Bergman, the Academy Award-winning star of Casablanca, learned this lesson the hard way. In 1949, Bergman fell in love with Italian director Roberto Rossellini and became pregnant with his child while still married to her first husband. The scandal made headlines around the world, and Bergman was vilified in the press. She was denounced on the floor of the U.S. Senate and effectively exiled from Hollywood for years. It wasn't until her triumphant return in Anastasia, 1956, that she was able to rebuild her career. Similarly, Katharine Hepburn, one of Hollywood's most independent and outspoken stars, had a long-term relationship with Spencer Tracy that was kept hidden from the public. Tracy, a devout Catholic, refused to divorce his wife, and the couple's affair was an open secret in Hollywood. Hepburn and Tracy starred in 9 films together, but their real-life romance was never acknowledged in the press. It wasn't until after Tracy's death in 1967 that Hepburn began to speak openly about their relationship. The secret pasts, reinventing identities. For some stars, the double life extended beyond their personal relationships to their very identities. In an industry built on image, many actors reinvented themselves, creating new personas that bore little resemblance to their real lives. Rita Hayworth, one of the most glamorous stars of the 1940s, was born Margarita Carmen Cancino, the daughter of a Spanish dancer. To make her more palatable to American audiences, Columbia Pictures changed her name, dyed her hair red, and subjected her to painful electrolysis to raise her hairline. Hayworth's transformation into a Hollywood icon was a success, but it came at a cost. She later said, "Every man I knew went to bed with Gilda and woke up with me." Hayworth struggled to reconcile her public persona with her private self was a constant source of pain. The explosive revelations, when the truth comes out. For many stars, the double life they led was a carefully guarded secret, but when the truth came out, the consequences were often devastating. Whether it was a scandalous affair, a hidden addiction, or a secret identity, the revelations could shatter careers and reshape public perceptions. One of the most explosive scandals of the era involved actor Fatty Arbuckle, a silent film star whose career was destroyed by allegations of rape and murder. Arbuckle was acquitted of all charges, but the scandal tarnished his reputation and ended his career. The case was a stark reminder of the power of public opinion and the fragility of a star's image. Similarly, the revelation of Rock Hudson's AIDS diagnosis in the 1980s forced Hollywood to confront the realities of the disease and the stigma surrounding homosexuality. Hudson's illness brought the AIDS crisis into the public eye, but it also exposed the hypocrisy of an industry that had forced its stars to live in the shadows. The pressure to stay on top in an unforgiving industry often turned colleagues into enemies, friends into foes, and collaborators into adversaries. These feuds weren't just private spats, they often spilled into the public eye, becoming tabloid sensations and shaping the careers of some of Hollywood's biggest names. From on-set clashes to backstabbing betrayals, this is the untold story of the rivalries and personal vendettas that defined Hollywood's golden era. Bette Davis versus Joan Crawford, a feud for the ages. No rivalry in Hollywood history is as legendary or as venomous as the one between Bette Davis and Joan Crawford. Both were powerhouse actresses who dominated the silver screen in the 1930s and 1940s, but their mutual disdain was as intense as their talent. The feud reached its peak during the filming of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, 1962, a psychological thriller that pitted the two against each other both on and off screen. Davis, known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude, openly mocked Crawford's acting abilities, calling her a movie star rather than a true actress. Crawford, who prided herself on her glamour and charm, retaliated by spreading rumors about Davis's personal life. On set, the tension was palpable. Crawford reportedly placed weights in her pockets during scenes where Davis had to drag her across the floor, causing Davis to strain her back. Davis, in turn, deliberately kicked Crawford in the head during a scene, leaving her co-star with a bloody scalp. The feud didn't end with the film's release. When Davis was nominated for an Academy Award for her performance, Crawford allegedly contacted the other nominees and offered to accept the award on their behalf if they couldn't attend. When Anne Bancroft won, Crawford gleefully took the stage, stealing the spotlight from Davis. The rivalry between these two icons became the stuff of Hollywood legend, a testament to the lengths stars would go to outshine each other. Olivia de Havilland versus Joan Fontaine, sisters at war. Even family ties weren't immune to Hollywood's cutthroat competition. Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine, real-life sisters, had a rivalry that was as personal as it was professional. Both were acclaimed actresses, de Havilland known for Gone with the Wind and Fontaine for Rebecca, but their relationship was fraught with jealousy and resentment. The feud reportedly began in childhood, with Fontaine feeling overshadowed by her older sister. It reached a boiling point in 1942, when both sisters were nominated for the Academy Award for Best Actress. Fontaine won for her role in Suspicion, and de Havilland's reaction was icy at best. The tension only grew over the years, with the sisters barely speaking to each other. In one infamous incident, de Havilland snubbed Fontaine at a party, leading Fontaine to remark, "I married first, won the Oscar before Olivia, and if I die first, she'll undoubtedly be livid because I beat her to it." Their feud lasted for decades, with the sisters reportedly not speaking for over 30 years. Even in their later years, they refused to reconcile, their rivalry a stark reminder of how personal and petty Hollywood feuds could become. Marlon Brando versus Frank Sinatra, Clash of the Titans. When two of Hollywood's biggest egos collided, the result was explosive. Marlon Brando and Frank Sinatra's rivalry began during the filming of Guys and Dolls, 1955, a musical that paired Brando's method acting with Sinatra's smooth crooning. From the start, the two clashed over everything from their acting styles to their screen time. Sinatra, who had hoped to play Brando's role of Sky Masterson, was furious when the part went to Brando instead. He reportedly referred to Brando as Mumbles and mocked his method acting techniques. Brando, in turn, dismissed Sinatra as a no-talent idiot and made no effort to hide his disdain. The tension on set was so intense that director Joseph L. Mankiewicz had to mediate between the two stars to keep the production on track. The feud didn't end with the film's release. Sinatra reportedly held a grudge against Brando for years, even refusing to attend events where Brando was present. Their rivalry became a symbol of the clash between old-school Hollywood charm and the new wave of method acting, a battle that played out both on and off screen. Katharine Hepburn versus Spencer Tracy, Love and Rivalry. Even the most enduring Hollywood love stories had their share of rivalry. Katharine Hepburn and Spencer Tracy, one of the most iconic on-screen couples, had a relationship that was as tumultuous as it was passionate. While their chemistry was undeniable, their off-screen dynamic was marked by competition and conflict. Hepburn, a fiercely independent and outspoken actress, often clashed with Tracy, who was more traditional and reserved. Their differing approaches to acting, Hepburn's meticulous preparation versus Tracy's more instinctive style, led to frequent arguments on set. Hepburn once admitted, "I was always trying to teach him, and he was always trying to teach me." We drove each other crazy. Despite their love for each other, their rivalry was a constant undercurrent in their relationship. Tracy's struggles with alcoholism and his refusal to divorce his wife added to the tension, creating a dynamic that was as fraught as it was passionate. Their story is a reminder that even the most legendary romances were not immune to the pressures of Hollywood. The Battle of the Blondes, Marilyn Monroe versus Jane Mansfield. In the 1950s, Hollywood had room for only one blonde bombshell, and Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield were determined to outshine each other. Their rivalry was fueled by their similar images and the constant comparisons in the press. Monroe, with her sultry vulnerability, was the reigning queen of Hollywood, but Mansfield, with her over-the-top persona, was eager to dethrone her. The feud reached its peak at a party hosted by Romanoff's restaurant in Beverly Hills. Mansfield arrived in a revealing pink gown, determined to steal the spotlight from Monroe. When Monroe made her entrance, she strategically paused in the doorway, allowing the photographers to capture her in all her glory. Mansfield, not to be outdone, accidentally spilled a drink down her dress, drawing attention back to herself. The incident became a tabloid sensation, a symbol of the length stars would go to outshine each other. Their rivalry was as much about image as it was about talent, a reminder that in Hollywood, perception was often more important than reality. Scandalous Hollywood court cases and lawsuits, the legal battles that shook Tinseltown. Hollywood's golden era wasn't just defined by glitz, glamour, and iconic films, it was also a time of explosive legal battles that rocked the industry to its core. From contract disputes to defamation suits, these courtroom dramas exposed the dark underbelly of Hollywood, revealing the cutthroat tactics and moral compromises that fueled the Dream Factory. These landmark cases didn't just reshape careers, they altered the very fabric of the entertainment industry, setting precedents that still resonate today. This is the untold story of the scandalous court cases and lawsuits that defined Hollywood's golden era. The battle for freedom, Olivia de Havilland versus Warner Brothers. One of the most groundbreaking legal battles in Hollywood history was waged by Olivia de Havilland, the Academy Award-winning star of Gone with the Wind. In 1943, de Havilland sued Warner Brothers over the studio's practice of adding suspension time to her contract. Under the studio system, actors were bound by long-term contracts that gave studios near total control over their careers. If an actor refused a role or was suspended, the studio could extend the contract indefinitely, effectively trapping them in a gilded cage. De Havilland, frustrated by the lack of quality roles she was being offered, took a stand. She argued that California labor law limited personal service contracts to 7 years, including suspensions. The case went to court, and de Havilland emerged victorious. The ruling, known as the de Havilland Law, was a landmark victory for actors, giving them greater freedom and control over their careers. But the win came at a cost. Warner Brothers blacklisted de Havilland, and she struggled to find work for years. Her bravery paved the way for future actors, but it also exposed the ruthless nature of the studio system. Fatty Arbuckle, the trial that ended a career. Few court cases in Hollywood history were as sensational or as devastating as the trial of Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. In the early 1920s, Arbuckle was one of Hollywood's biggest stars, known for his comedic talent and larger-than-life persona. But his career came crashing down in 1921 when he was accused of raping and murdering actress Virginia Rappe during a wild party in San Francisco. The trial became a media circus, with tabloids painting Arbuckle as a depraved monster. Despite a lack of concrete evidence, public opinion turned against him, and Arbuckle was tried 3 times before being acquitted. The jury even issued a formal apology, stating, "Acquittal is not enough for Roscoe Arbuckle. We feel that a great injustice has been done to him." But the damage was done. Arbuckle's career was destroyed, and he was effectively blacklisted from Hollywood. The case marked a turning point in the industry, leading to stricter moral codes and the rise of the Hays Office, which enforced censorship in films. Charlie Chaplin versus Joan Barry, a scandalous paternity suit. Charlie Chaplin, one of the most iconic figures in Hollywood history, found himself at the center of a scandalous paternity suit in the 1940s. Joan Barry, a young actress with whom Chaplin had a brief affair, claimed that he was the father of her child. The case became a tabloid sensation, with Barry's erratic behavior and Chaplin's reputation as a ladies' man fueling the drama. Chaplin denied the allegations, and blood tests eventually proved that he was not the father. But the damage to his reputation was irreparable. The case coincided with growing scrutiny of Chaplin's political views, and he was accused of being a communist sympathizer. In 1952, while traveling abroad, Chaplin was effectively exiled from the United States. The paternity suit and its aftermath marked the end of Chaplin's career in Hollywood, a tragic fall from grace for one of the industry's most legendary figures. The Blacklist Trials, Hollywood's Witch Hunt. The late 1940s and 1950s saw one of the darkest chapters in Hollywood history, the Hollywood Blacklist. The House Un-American Activities Committee, WAC, targeted writers, directors, and actors suspected of having communist ties, leading to a series of high-profile trials that destroyed careers and divided the industry. One of the most famous cases involved the Hollywood 10, a group of writers and directors who refused to testify before WAC, citing their First Amendment rights. They were charged with contempt of Congress and sentenced to prison. Among them was Dalton Trumbo, a brilliant screenwriter who penned classics like Roman Holiday and Spartacus. Trumbo spent a year in prison and was forced to write under pseudonyms for over a decade. The Blacklist trials exposed the paranoia and fear that gripped Hollywood during the Red Scare, and their legacy continues to shape discussions about free speech and artistic freedom. Errol Flynn, the trial that defined a playboy. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling star of The Adventures of Robin Hood, was known for his charm, good looks, and scandalous personal life. But in 1942, Flynn found himself at the center of a shocking court case when he was accused of statutory rape by two teenage girls. The trial became a media sensation, with Flynn's reputation as a playboy fueling public fascination. Flynn denied the allegations, and his defense team argued that the girls had fabricated the story for fame and money. The jury acquitted Flynn, but the trial left a lasting mark on his career. The phrase "and like Flynn," which had once been a compliment, became a taunt, and Flynn's image as a dashing hero was forever tarnished. The case also highlighted the double standards of Hollywood, where male stars were often excused for behavior that would have destroyed the careers of their female counterparts. The precedent-setting case of Hedda Hopper versus Ginger Rogers. In 1944, gossip columnist Hedda Hopper found herself in hot water when she published a story accusing Ginger Rogers of being a communist sympathizer. Rogers, one of Hollywood's biggest stars, sued Hopper for defamation, sparking a legal battle that would set an important precedent for freedom of the press. The case went to trial, and Rogers emerged victorious, with the jury awarding her $50,000 in damages. The ruling was a rare win for a celebrity against a powerful gossip columnist, and it sent a message that even the most influential figures in Hollywood could be held accountable for their words. The case also highlighted the power of the press in shaping public perception and the dangers of unchecked influence. The legacy of Hollywood's legal battles. The scandalous court cases and lawsuits of Hollywood's golden era were more than just tabloid fodder. They were pivotal moments that reshaped the industry. These legal battles exposed the dark side of fame, from the exploitative practices of the studio system to the moral hypocrisy of the industry's elite. They also set important precedents, from labor rights to freedom of speech, that continue to influence Hollywood today. So the next time you watch a classic film from Hollywood's golden era, remember the legal dramas that played out behind the scenes. Remember the stars who fought for their rights, the careers that were destroyed, and the battles that changed the industry forever. Their stories are a testament to the high stakes of fame and the enduring power of justice. New chat. Secret social clubs and exclusive gatherings, the hidden world of Hollywood's elite. Hollywood's golden era wasn't just about the glitz and glamour of the silver screen. It was also defined by the secret social clubs and exclusive gatherings where the industry's most powerful figures mingled behind closed doors. These clandestine parties and private circles were where deals were made, alliances were forged, and scandals were born. Away from the prying eyes of the public, Hollywood's elite indulged in a world of excess, intrigue, and secrecy. From lavish mansions to hidden speakeasies, these gatherings were the playgrounds of the rich and famous, where the rules of the outside world didn't apply. This is the untold story of the secret social clubs and exclusive gatherings that shaped Hollywood's golden era. The Garden of Allah, Hollywood's bohemian playground. Nestled in the heart of West Hollywood, the Garden of Allah was the epicenter of Hollywood's bohemian elite. Originally the private estate of silent film star Alina Azimova, the property was transformed into a hotel and villa complex in the 1920s, becoming a haven for writers, actors, and artists. The Garden of Allah was known for its wild parties, where the champagne flowed freely and the boundaries of propriety were often blurred. F. Scott Fitzgerald, Dorothy Parker, and Ernest Hemingway were among the literary giants who frequented the garden, rubbing shoulders with Hollywood stars like Greta Garbo and Marlene Dietrich. The hotel's poolside gatherings were legendary, with guests indulging in everything from intellectual debates to scandalous affairs. The Garden of Allah was a place where creativity and debauchery coexisted, a symbol of the free-spirited excess that defined Hollywood's early years. The Cocoanut Grove, Glamour and Scandal under the stars. Located inside the Ambassador Hotel, the Cocoanut Grove was one of Hollywood's most iconic nightclubs. With its tropical decor, palm trees, and star-studded guest list, the Grove was the place to see and be seen. From the 1920s to the 1960s, it hosted some of the most glamorous parties in Hollywood history, attracting stars like Clark Gable, Judy Garland, and Frank Sinatra. But beneath the surface of glitz and glamour, the Cocoanut Grove was also a hotbed of scandal. It was here that the infamous Fatty Arbuckle scandal began, with the wild party that led to Virginia Rapp's tragic death. The Grove was also a favorite haunt of mobsters and bootleggers during Prohibition, adding an undercurrent of danger to its allure. The nightclub's mix of glamour and scandal made it a microcosm of Hollywood itself, a place where dreams and darkness collided. The Bundy Drive Boys, Hollywood's secret society. In the 1930s, a group of Hollywood's most powerful men formed an exclusive club known as the Bundy Drive Boys. Named after the street where they met, the group included studio executives, directors, and producers like Darrell F. Zanuck, Hal Wallace, and Jack Warner. The Bundy Drive Boys were known for their raucous poker games, where fortunes were won and lost, and for their wild parties, which often featured a rotating cast of starlets and aspiring actresses. The group's gatherings were strictly off the record, and what happened at Bundy Drive stayed at Bundy Drive. Rumors swirled about the club's activities, from secret deals to scandalous affairs, but the members maintained a code of silence. The Bundy Drive Boys were a symbol of the old boys network that dominated Hollywood, a reminder of the industry's deeply entrenched power structures. The Hollywood Canteen, Stars and Soldiers. During World War II, the Hollywood Canteen became a unique gathering place where stars and soldiers mingled. Founded by Betty Davis and John Garfield, the Canteen was a nightclub where servicemen could enjoy free food, drinks, and entertainment provided by Hollywood's biggest stars. The Canteen was a place of camaraderie and goodwill, but it also had its share of scandals. Rumors of romantic liaisons between stars and soldiers were common, and the Canteen's relaxed atmosphere often led to unexpected alliances. For many young servicemen, the Hollywood Canteen was a dream come true, a chance to rub shoulders with the stars they idolized. But for the stars, it was also a place to let their guard down, away from the pressures of the studio system. The Rat Pack, Kings of Cool. In the 1950s and 1960s, the Rat Pack redefined Hollywood's social scene. Led by Frank Sinatra, the group included Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. The Rat Pack's gatherings at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas were legendary, combining music, comedy, and a sense of effortless cool. But the Rat Pack was more than just a social club, it was a powerful alliance that shaped Hollywood and Las Vegas. The group's performances at the Sands helped establish Las Vegas as the entertainment capital of the world, and their influence extended to politics, with Sinatra and Lawford playing key roles in John F. Kennedy's presidential campaign. The Rat Pack's mix of talent, charisma, and power made them the ultimate Hollywood insider group, a symbol of the era's glamour and excess. The Whisky A Go-Go, birthplace of the counterculture. In the 1960s, the Whisky A Go-Go on the Sunset Strip became the epicenter of Hollywood's counterculture movement. The nightclub was a gathering place for musicians, actors, and artists, hosting performances by legends like The Doors, Janis Joplin, and Jimi Hendrix. The Whisky was a place where boundaries were pushed and norms were challenged, reflecting the changing attitudes of the era. But the Whisky was also a place of excess and scandal. Drug use was rampant, and the club's wild parties often spilled into the streets. The Whisky A Go-Go was a symbol of Hollywood's evolving social scene, a place where the old guard clashed with the new generation.